This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Hello and welcome to this rather spooktacular episode of the DreamPod. I'm Tom and I'm joined on this most frightful of nights by a witch's coven of horrors. Sorry guys, I hope you don't mind being called a witch's coven. I'll stop with the awful Halloween references now as well. Well, for a while at least. Joining me is Andrew. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, I'm looking forward to Lewis putting reverb on all of the Halloween things you say.
Mike. Hello, Mike.
Good evening.
Martin.
Hello.
And Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Excellent. You're back in the room this time.
Yeah.
For those people who'd got no idea what we're talking about, we did the intro the first time, and I didn't realise Mark had gone to the toilet, so then it turned into a bit of a seance, trying to channel his spirit. Anyway, welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to you listening at home. Andrew, I've got a question for you.
Oh.
Trick or treat?
Oh, I like a treat. Let's go for a treat.
Well, the treat is you're on the DreamPod. Let's carry on.
Oh my god, yeah.
Well, the trick of being that I'm on the DreamPod as well.
Maybe. You'll never know.
You'll never know.
I'll keep you guessing. Okay, so yeah, this is our Halloween episode for the year of our Lord 2020 AD. The premise for this episode is we're not going to do what we've done in the past or what a lot of other podcasts do and talk about horror games specifically. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about something that we find personally horrific on the Dreamcast, be that a game or something within a game, a feature within a game. And there's some interesting choices, I'll say that now. So stick around and you'll find out what those are. Before we get to that, though, I've got a question for the guys here on the podcast. I would like to hear something spooky. I want to hear a spooky story, something that happened to you maybe in your childhood or as an adult. I'll kick things off, though, to give you a flavour of what I'm kind of talking about. I remember when I was a kid, my dad had a book which was like this big kind of, it was not a leather bound book, but it was quite similar. It had like a cloth cover. You know, do you remember when books had them like weird cotton covered covers, and it was like made of fabric. Anyway, it was like a Reader's Digest book of like ghost stories or weird stories, you know, from around the world. And it was full of things like Victorian photographs of ghosts and stories about, you know, manor houses where blood would pour down the walls, or screaming skulls that would, you know, sound the death knell of somebody who'd heard it, you know. And I used to read these stories, and I always used to read them before I went to bed. And then I would never be able to get to sleep because I'd always be thinking about things like stories about like Spring-Heeled Jack, or a story about when the devil walked across Devon and the people came out of the houses the next morning to find that the snow had been imprinted by the devil's footprints, you know, across fields and then on top of rooftops. And I had all these vivid images in my head of all these spooky things. And again, like I say, I could never sleep after reading it. And I used to do it to myself all the time.
I'm already curious about Spring-Heeled Jack. I mean, that's something I really need to Google straight after this. That sounds amazing.
Are you familiar with Spring-Heeled Jack? Do you know
Never
the story? So basically, the story of Spring-Heeled Jack is that in the sort of the late 1800s and early 1900s, there were these reports of this being known as Spring-Heeled Jack who would appear in alleyways or knock at people's doors and then kind of claw at them and then sort of jump away into the night. And he was depicted as like having a devil's face and would like breathe flames and things like that. And it became a bit of almost like a sort of a folk tale that people would tell their kids, you know, around the turn of the century. And it's a really fascinating local folklore, mainly around the northwest, around like Liverpool, places like that, but also in London as well. I think he was spotted and sighted. Yeah. It's quite an interesting story. He's not been sort of seen or heard anything from him. He's obviously retired in the 100 years since he was. But yeah, so that's my story. That's my spooky story. I'm going to come to you first, Andrew. Enlighten us. Come on, tell us something spooky from your childhood or whenever.
So I've grown up absolutely loving horror because my mother, in all her wisdom, decided to allow me to watch horror films from the age of about 11. I mean, she gave birth to my sister while watching the Nightmare on Elm Street films. That's how much of a horror buff that she is.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
Wow.
Okay. It was a very long labour, so in labour she had to do something, so she watched the Nightmare on Elm Street films. And we always use that as an excuse as to why my sister is not nice.
Possessed.
She's lovely, but when she was a teenager she was awful. She'll agree with that. Anyway, so I love horror. It's a separate story. Throwing my sister under the bus there. She's lovely. So I was always loved horror, but never really believed in superstitious stuff or ghosts or anything like that. And my grandma would tell me stories that apparently she used to own a pub and there was a ghost there that she said haunted the pub. She called it Maria. Anyway, didn't believe it. And I went to university in Stoke-on-Trent, and after we left halls from the first year, we moved into a student house, and we found this really old house down near Stoke Cathedral. Stoke Cathedral, mind you, is just a church, a regular old church, but they had to designate it as a cathedral so they could call Stoke-on-Trent a city. So that's fun. Fun fact for you there. So we lived nearby to Stoke Cathedral, in inverted commas, and it was an old house, very old. In fact, so old that the front wall of the house was falling outwards and had to have it replaced halfway through our tenancy there, which was fun. But we, one of my friends who I went to uni with, her mum was a spiritualist medium. And she came over to our house once because my friend thought that she felt a presence in our house. And the spiritualist medium was very adamant that there was definitely a presence in the house. And it was a male, and it was very angry at women, didn't like women at all.
It wasn't just a gamer on Twitter, was it?
Potentially, yeah.
Hiding in a corner somewhere, just tweeting.
Sorry, Andy, this is a good story. Sorry.
It's fine. So, I mean, weirdly, before she'd come to visit, I had experienced some weird stuff. Like, in the first few weeks that I lived there, I put together a set of shelves, which is unheard of me to do. And I probably did it wrong, but I finished it, and I was really proud of myself, and I'd finished it. And I went round to the side of the shelves to kind of admire my handiwork. And two of the screws had come out and were hanging out when I was absolutely sure I'd screwed them in. Lights turned themselves on and off. Once I was in the bathroom and it had one of those pulley cords, and it just started swinging of its own accord quite violently. So, yeah, we ended up doing, like, me, my friend and somebody else did like a back in those days, Most Haunted was a thing, and people loved that. So we were media students, so we had access to cameras. So we did like night vision shoots at the house to see if we could find anything. And of course, there was nothing, So we kind of put it to bed. And there was a few other things here or there, like a door shutting itself. And once I saw like a shadow move up the stairs when there was nobody else in the house. But anyway, I was like, still skeptical about the whole thing. And I lived there with my partner. So my partner met at university. And we lived in the house. And when we left to move somewhere else, kind of the last day, it was just me and my partner left in the house. And we were packing up the final things, putting things into the car. We kind of packed everything up, got into the car, kind of looked back at the house for the last time, as you do. We'd been there for a year or so. Kind of looked back and it went, goodbye house, moving to somewhere new in Stoke. And my partner looked up at because it was a 3-story house, so there's like an attic bedroom, and he looked up at the top window in the house and he went, "Oh fuck." Pardon me if I can't swear, if I shouldn't swear.
No, that's fine.
Bleep that out. And I went, "What?" And he said, I'm getting the crap out of here. And he saw a shadowy figure stood in the window at the top floor of the house. The house had been completely empty when we left. We were the last people in there. And he floored it. He floored it out of there.
Wow.
So that's the last we ever saw the house. But that is my scary story.
Mate, I'm getting shivers just listening to that. It's
Yeah, that was
Turn heating on, Tom.
Yeah.
You tight bastard.
Right. Great story, Andrew. Mike, enlighten us.
Yes, hello. So you've sort of stolen my thunder slightly because I was going to talk about Devil's Footprints.
Please enlighten the listeners.
Sort of similar upbringing in terms of reading random strange things. I will pass on Devil's Footprints. So it's a fantastic story for anyone to look up exactly how Tom's described it. I think the explanation for it is meant to be an escaped balloon, but I don't ever believe that. So basically, I've always been interested in horror and interested in sort of strange things. As Tom knows, we have a shared interest in 40 Enzymes.
Oh, yes.
And for me, I think it's come from where my family were from. So my family my mum's side of the family has come from a small village. in the lower Cotswolds. And when I say lower Cotswolds, I mean so low down it's not classed as the Cotswolds. And it's really, really old, sort of 12th, 13th century village. And the village is split in two parts. And there's a part which is down a very winding downhill road, which leads to a church. The church is sort of in the middle of a natural amphitheatre almost, but the church is very old. It's the oldest surviving Norman church in the country, and it's got a little monk's room upstairs. You have to go through a very small staircase to get to it. The worst thing about it is also I remember many childhood summers going down to this church, and the graveyard sort of opens up onto some fields at the back. And I remember probably 10, 11, 12, standing in the graveyard, probably visiting someone's grave, I imagine. Not just hang around graveyard. Well, I do hang around graveyards, but that's not when I was 11 years old.
Playing an electric guitar, like sort
playing electric guitar, mate. Yeah, well, sorry, rock, mate. Sorry, rock. So standing in the field, and over the field at the background, there was a figure coming towards the graveyard, which is not that surprising. I mean, the fields were open up. As the figure came closer, it was clear that the figure was a woman, dressed in, I suppose it's the loose definition of period clothing, old clothing. Came up to the turnstile. I think it was a wooden turnstile at the wall of the graveyard, and there's a sort of a slight dip as you go onto it, so you sort of go out of view slightly. And of course, the woman never appeared on top of the bit, and never came to the graveyard. And obviously, we couldn't see anyone at all. It's a really weird village. I don't know if Tom might have read the same book when he was younger. There's a famous book by Usborne Books about ghosts, and there's a book, a part of the book which deals with the most haunted village in Britain.
Sounds
and it
familiar.
Always,
yeah,
it's a book I used to take. So every other kid used to take, sort of like interesting little fantasy stories to their school. When you have that one day a year, you took books in. I used to take this big anthology of ghosts, UFOs, and monsters. And I just remember this one double spread page where it was the most haunted village, and it reminds me of the village that my mum comes from. I remember bits where we used to go to the house where my nan lived, and I would be down by the stairs. And there was a grandfather clock on one side of the hall, very, very small hall. And I distinctly remember once being out there, the grandfather clock chime in, we look it up, and there was a figure staring back from top of the stairs. And those kind of things, I think we all have them when we're children. We all have these sort of weird moments. I think some of it is down to misremembering or just being scared by little things. But I'm going to end my little anthology of stories by just saying that when I was about the same age, me and a friend at school we had to write a creative writing piece, and we basically decided to write a piece about famous ghosts of the town we lived in. Now, obviously, being 10-year-old, 11-year-old children, we made most of them up because, we're not going to research stuff. The problem with that, and this will appeal again to people who like 40 Times and the Mandela effect, the stories we made up now seem to have gone down in legend in the town. And so I've now heard in the 30 years since people saying, oh, do you hear about the ghost carriage which goes down one of the streets? Well, no one heard of it until I wrote it in a book when I was 10 years old. How that has got into a wider knowledge is a bit beyond me, really. But those kind of things, it's lots of little... Where I come from is quite an old place. There's lots of old buildings around, but it's also quite a modern development. So it's sort of lots of working class houses and sort of an old village it's based on. So there's lots of these little bits. Just for clarification as well, the place where I said that the ghost carriage went down, is an old Victorian Gothic building, which looks very similar to the Addams family house, and where I actually had my reception for my wedding, because the theme was all Halloweeny.
Nice.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Mike. Cool stories. Mark, I'm coming to you next.
So kind of similar-ish, on a similar vein here, really. So my mum's house, she's lived there the entirety of my life. It's still there now, and it's just known as I don't even know whether I particularly believe in ghosts, but it's just known as like a very, very haunted house generally. So like growing up, the lights had come on in the bedroom in the middle of the night on their own, and I just kind of accept that as like, well, that's just what happens here.
Bad wiring.
Yeah, and then other things like quite a few times the wardrobe doors had opened on their own and stuff like that. Like there was a time similar to what someone said earlier. I was on MSN when I was about 13, 14, and there's no road at the back of the house, and my bedroom was at the rear of the house, and a shadow of a man walked past, like, behind me on the wall while I was chatting to my friend Amy, and we both saw it, and I freaked out and ran downstairs because I saw it. And then, like, I spent like an hour trying to work out what that was. But the one in particular, because I had friends who stayed over at school who refused to ever stay over again because they said that, like, when they were in bed, the bed was rocking and stuff like that, and like loads of mad stuff. But the worst one ever was when I was about 17. I'd moved out. Actually, I must have been 18. Yeah, I just moved out, and I came home about 2 weeks later, and as you open my mum's front door, the stairs are right kind of immediately in front of you. And I was talking to her just at the door, and I said, "Oh, who's upstairs?" Because she lives on her own. She said, "Oh, no one." But I looked up, and there was a man at the top of the stairs, like just like his head was peeking round and looking at me.
Oh.
Yeah, right. And then like, as I made eye contact with him, his head moved around, like as if he was hiding. And I was like, "Mum, there's definitely." I've just seen it.
No, that's awful.
And like,
Jesus Christ!
But she was adamant that it wasn't. So I ran upstairs thinking that there was actually someone in the house. Literally tore the house apart upstairs, going, "I've definitely seen someone." 100%. Like, and I described him and was like, "I have no idea what that was." A week later, my uncle came round, who rarely visits. We hadn't spoke or anything, and I happened to be there. When he opened the door, he was like, "Oh, who's upstairs? I've just seen a guy peeking his head round." And I said,
"Oh, no,
yeah."
No.
I said, "Right, I'm not going to say anything. Describe him," and he described him exactly the same. And it freaked my mum out so much.
It's freaking me out right now.
Hey, tell me about it. I'm in the house on my own. When I look in the window.
There's a power cut during this podcast.
I know. Yeah, like, I've never actually told my girlfriend those stories because she has had to stay over there a few times. It's like I would never tell her how many things I saw as a kid in that place. It's rough. That honestly, that house is terrifying.
That is bad, mate. I'm going to be thinking about that now all night. Wow. Thanks for that, Mark. Cheers. Now, last but not least, Martin.
Well, so I grew up in Norfolk, so like the scariest thing there was I saw a cow walking backwards, and then this electricity came, and that was scary. I didn't trust that, and then the internet and all this kind of voodoo.
It'll never catch on electricity.
Exactly. Well, it hasn't in Norfolk, to be fair, so that's fine. We're still using candles. That's all good. That's all you need. For me, unfortunately, it's all pretty boring, really. I haven't seen things like this. You get the odd, mind playing tricks on you type stuff with shadows and things like that, but nothing like a head, at the top of the stairs or something, which is scaring me right now. So that's a horrific story. As are the others, they're all really good. For me, really, it's all come from like from watching films and just having that psychologically freak me out such that I can't get a good night's sleep for like weeks or months even. Like I remember the first time I saw The Exorcist when I was pretty young at a sleepover. I don't know, all like 10, 11 years old. Thought, this will be fine. And it was not fine watching that film at that age. So that freaked me out for a bit. But apart from that, no, unfortunately, I don't have any of these truly horrific stories that are making me feel a bit uneasy in this room by myself right now. I'm checking all the corners.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. So I hope our listeners are all suitably freaked out now as well as I am. But yeah, that's great. And I think what we'll do now is we'll move on to the main meat of our episode and talk about some things that maybe are not in the real world, the spiritual world, but in the world of Dreamcast. Some frightening and horrific things that exist digitally on our favourite little console. I think because I went first last time, I'll go first again this time, just to give you a bit of a flavour of what we're going to try and talk about in this section. Not necessarily horror-themed games, but things that we, as I say, deem to be slightly horrific and things that we are not overly keen on. I'm going to start, and I'm going to talk about a game which, coincidentally, is actually a horror game, but it's not. That's not the reason that I want to speak about it. The reason I want to speak about it is because I find it just an awful experience, really. That game is The Ring Terror's Realm. Has anyone else played this game here?
Yeah.
No,
I don't think I have, actually.
That was you, Mike? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I thought so much. So The Ring Terror's Realm. It's almost like a spin-off from the film The Ring. And that's a great film. I love that film. I think it's one of the best horror films ever made. The original, not the American remake. The original Japanese horror film, The Ring, is fantastic. And there's just something about horror from Japan that I really like. It resonates with me hugely, just because generally it's not about things that pop out of cupboards or things that just want to like swing an axe at you. It's almost like it's the eeriness of it. It's the modern world and also the spiritual side of sort of Japanese culture that all kind of come together. And that's what really sort of freaks me out about Japanese horror films. It's not just The Ring, there's other ones as well that, are quite similar. So, yeah, that really appeals to me. And then when this game came into my possession, I was expecting sort of something similar. I didn't really know a lot about it. And when I started to play it, I realised that it really has not a great deal in common with the film. It's a sort of semi-sequel. It's canon, if you will, but it's just bad. So, for those people who haven't played it, The Ring: Terror's Realm is set in the US, and you play as a lady called Meg Rainman, and she works for the CDC. And basically, what's happened in her workplace is that this computer program, this haunted computer program, basically has killed loads of scientists. I mean, that sounds ridiculous in itself, but it's no more ridiculous than a haunted VHS tape. And in a way, I kind of like it more because I love technology that could be kind of a little bit strange, a little bit. You get these like not memes, but you get these like creepypastas about like haunted N64 games or haunted. Like this is right down my sort of alley.
Ben, Tom, the story of Ben.
Oh, is it Ben with the haunted N64 cartridge? Is it?
That still haunts me.
Yeah. Yeah, this game is just crap. It's just she moves so slowly, and then it just makes no sense. Like you log onto computers and you go into this like alternative dimension where it turns into a sort of a shoot 'em up where you're shooting against like sort of weird mutant creatures. It just makes no sense. And on top of that, oh my god. The cutscenes are some of the worst I've ever seen ever in any media. The CG graphics, Mike, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, with the big bulging eyes and the massive foreheads. It's just like who designed this? That does not look like a person. It looks nothing like a person. It's awful. The whole game is it's a dog's dinner, and it does the Ring name a disservice because it's just so terrible. I mean, Mike, you're the only person here who's played it, so you're the only one who can really kind of back me up on this. But surely, I mean, you must have some opinions that kind of resonate with what I've just said.
Yeah, it's shit. No, I mean, generally, it is probably of all the games that are really bad on Dreamcast, this is the one I wanted to play the most. And I thought, how can it be that bad? It is really, really bad. The acting's the voice acting. I can't remember if it's got voice acting now. So. I'm sure it has. If it's not voice acting, it's the script. It's just awful writing. The CGI, as Tom said, is appalling, and it's just a really badly made game.
For a game that has such an amazing kind of thing to draw from in the film version of The Ring, the fact that it's so boring, you just end up walking around this office building, talking to people, and it's just like, when's something going to happen? I was wandering down corridors trying to open doors, and it's just like, how is this scary? It's not scary. It's monotonously tiresome. It's a complete missed opportunity. And obviously these days we've got things like PT and actual horror games like Resident Evil 7, which are, actually scary. This is not scary. It's just dull. You're more likely to die of boredom, than from anything in the game. It's awful. It's really bad. I do like the concept of, haunted physical, or haunted computer programs or haunted internet websites and weird creepypastas and stuff like that. It's right up my, as I say again, right up my alley. But this is just poor. I'm going to stop ranting now. I'm going to let somebody else have a go. So yeah, that's my choice. The Ring: Terror's Realm. Oh, one more thing that's horrific about this game is the price it now commands on eBay. Just stay away from it. I mean, even if you're a completionist, just get the ROM or something off the internet. Don't pay money for this. It's crap. Right, let's see. Who shall I pick on first? I'm going to come to you, Mark.
Okay, well, so this one, I mean, anyone who subscribes to my channel, Maz Gaming, will know that I've got a real beef with this game, and it is horrific. And I think I'm more annoyed that it's horrific because it shouldn't be in any way. Like all the elements are there for this to not be as disastrously horseshit as it is, and that's South Park Rally, which it really bothers me because I mean, rally racing games are probably my favourite genre of game,
yes.
Widely, and then South Park's just incredible, and again, you've got so much background to kind of dig into, and so many characters that you could use, and so many ways of making this game incredible. Like, I feel like I'd have to really put effort in to make it shit. You know what I mean? Like given all the elements surrounding it, but it's awful. It's absolutely awful. It's unplayable. It's so bad. It's so bad. Like, I ordered it for me and Joe to play it on the channel, and we played half one race, and she went, "Nah." I like literally just was like, "Nah." She's never done that with any other game on Dreamcast. She was like, "I can't play this for a video. It's just not worth it. It's so rubbish."
Isn't the concept of the races? Isn't that you like race around laps? You have to like you ride around these kind of weird, like almost like open world courses, don't you, through checkpoints or something?
Yeah, and the checkpoints are so rubbish. It's like you have to go directly through the middle of a checkpoint. So like there's times when I've thought that I've gone past the first checkpoint, but actually, I've kind of slightly gone too far to the left or right. So I've not actually hit the checkpoint, but it's that's not immediately obvious. And then to get to the next one's like a 5-minute slow ride. So like by the time you get there and you go over it and you go, I've got to go back to the first one. And then it's like, it's so bad. Like there is no redeeming feature on it at all. There's just nothing. Like, has everyone played this?
Yeah, I've played it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, thoughts, lads. I mean, is this just me, or it's not. I know it's not, but let's discuss anyway.
No, I think I totally agree. I think those early South Park games, because they originated on N64, 2 of them, didn't they? Or 3? I think all of them. I know the first-person shooter one was a Turok engine game, wasn't it? And that was terrible. Yeah. And then the other one was it Love Shack?
Love Shack, yeah.
And I didn't particularly like any of them, to be honest. I thought they were all pretty missed opportunities. They were by Acclaim, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that says a lot, to be honest. I agree. Yeah.
They were really all this this kind of whole series of games. I mean, South Park was so popular then. I mean, it's popular now, of course, but it was crazy at that time in 2000. That era, these couple of years around there at school and everything. I just remember South Park. Yeah. We were obsessed with it. So I can see the cash-in idea, but they just kind of shoehorned. If this weren't called South Park, we wouldn't even be possibly. I mean, we might discuss it as being a piece of crap game, but it wouldn't. It's got this name attached to it that means so much more kind of to everyone. Mm-hmm. So it's an obvious kind of cash-in type idea, and obviously they licensed it out and everything, and then they've made this game that otherwise no one would look at. And I remember renting this from Blockbuster back in the day, obviously, and with a few other games as well, and we played it for about 10 minutes and it was just terrible. It was just absolutely exactly as has been said. It's just boring, and there's no real tie-in to South Park, really. It's just loose, and it's the idea of South Park, and then you think, well, actually, I'd rather just watch an episode of South Park and play Sega Rally or something.
Definitely, and I think if they would have just stuck to a normal racing concept of like you are racing against people, kind of it's a set, there's a set way to go on a set track. I actually think it could have been okay. Because the issue you've got with these big, wide open world things is that like you actually don't see anyone for the majority of the race. Like, so you are just racing around incredibly slowly on your own between checkpoints with no one around you.
It's not Looney Tunes or Wacky Races, is it? It's
not a chance.
And all they needed to do, exactly as you say, is just make a kind of normal racing game and just have all of the cutesy tie-in animation and do it like that, and they would have been on to a winner. But they've tried to do something unique, which fair play to them a little bit, I guess, but it has absolutely failed and sucked. So I completely agree with that.
I mean, if they'd done something like Wacky Races or, with that kind of hub world, that would have been quite interesting, where you could sort of drive around South Park itself and then go into different areas of the town and race that way. That would have been far better than what we ended up with.
Absolutely, yeah. I would have bought that, 100%.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Acclaim. Really hate that game. Like 20 odd years later, and I'm still bitter about how much I spent on it all them years ago.
Let's see, who should I go to next? I'm going to come to Andrew.
Ooh. Okay. I've not played either of the games that you've just been talking about, and I feel like the game I'm going to talk about is 2 games actually that I'm going to talk about. I have played, and I do love them, but there's a specific element about them that I don't like. I have to say as well, I'm really glad I haven't played either of the 2 games we've talked about so far. Although I have a feeling that the developers of the Ring Terror's Realm were actually trying to kill people through boredom by giving them that video game. Like you said, that was the virus. That was the viral thing they were trying to do. It was the game itself. I wonder if anybody has actually died playing that game. That must really suck for them. So
What a way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Just like a heart attack middle of the game is the last thing they do.
Just walk into some like apartment and there's just like a corpse on a couch and like the Dreamcast still like fans still spinning away and it's just the Ring Terror's realm and it's like, you are dead on the screen. Like, yeah, no shit.
But my choice isn't horrific in that sense. It was unintentionally horrific, I think, in the fact that they didn't know how badly it would age. And unfortunately for Sega, they've done this not once, not twice, not even 3 times, but they did this 4 times. And there's 4 separate games that have been marred by this particular thing, which is Michael Jackson.
This has taken a turn.
It has indeed. And I'm, of course, speaking about Space Channel 5 and Space Channel 5 Part 2, where Michael Jackson got very much involved with those games. I was reading about it earlier, having remembered this and wanting to speak about it. And apparently he was like shown an early version of the game. I'm not sure why. I'm guessing just because he was quite affiliated with Sega, having done the music for Sonic 3. And obviously there's the Moonwalker game.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So he was shown that and he liked it so much that he asked to be in it. And apparently they went, yeah, sure. So they just kind of shoved him in.
Actually, Andrew, I think he wrote to Jim will fix it to be in the game.
Oh no!
Yeah. We're going there, are we?
I am. That's,
you are.
That's what I've done. Yeah.
So he basically got into the game just because he was a massive fan of it, and that's why he's only a small part in the first game because it had pretty much been finished by that point. But then they expanded his role in Part 2 quite significantly, so he's in the games at the time. Kind of cool. It was interesting, and unfortunately not aged particularly well in the intervening 20 years. I had to laugh as well because I was reading about it. So I'm sure that Martin, you probably be able to tell me this. Why do the Japanese have such a big thing about blood type? Because every character they have has like a blood type. Because even Space Michael is blood type B. If you're interested,
was he actually blood type B in real life?
I don't know. Would that be widely available? Is that kind of information that you know
to
about
the internet?
Well, is there a reason for that, Martin? That people
my understanding, so I could of course be wrong or not informed enough, but my understanding from the outset is that it's tied closely to kind of the spiritual religions of Japan, so Buddhism and Shinto, but more so it's just something that that they love all this kind of data and information. So anyone who's got a Neo Geo Pocket Color will know that, you can get a horoscope on this kind of thing that's obviously attached to your star sign and things like this. And that's big across the board in Japan. And also when anyone's interviewed on TV, their age is always displayed. And, it's never the case that would happen in the West. And yeah, blood type is another huge one. The thing is, I don't know my blood type. I mean, here's a question for everyone. Do you know your blood type? Because I don't know what mine is. And unfortunately, my mum's passed away. And so is that information. So until I donate blood or something in Germany, I don't know what my blood type is. But in Japan, to answer your question, I think it really is just one of these cultural things that they kind of obsess over, stuff like this, age, blood type, when you're
like
born.
A top trumps kind of thing. You have all the different stats. Is that pretty much what it is?
Japan is nuts for that, just constantly in every aspect of life. Yeah.
Just to answer your
question, worry, Martin. I have
I
no idea what my blood type is either. Absolutely no clue.
I actually do know what mine is because I got a blood donor letter through the post the other day. So it's on that. So I do.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to know what my blood type is?
I'd have to go to the doctors to find out. Not to be weird, but I'm not allowed to donate blood, so I'd have to go and find out from my doctor. Is that something you can book an appointment for? It's like, oh, doctor, I want to find out what my blood type is. That's an odd thing to go to the doctor for. Anyway, moving back to Space Michael.
A little bit.
Sorry. So yeah, I enjoyed the games and I enjoyed him in the games because at the time he was this thing that he is aged unintentionally badly, not just because he has a lot of very strong allegations against him for certain wrongdoings, but also the fact that he died 9 years ago. And
What?
in
He
Space
died?
Channel, he did, yeah. He is dead. In Space Channel 5, however, he is not, because he lived on through, and he is, in Space Channel 5 Part 1, he is 538 years old, and in Space Channel 5 Part 2, he is 541 years old. However, they did remove him for the VR game, completely and utterly removed Space Michael. So that's my horrifying thing, yeah. That's my horrifying thing, is just Michael Jackson in Sega video games, specifically Space Channel 5, having aged horrifically badly.
In a few hundred years, that's going to be canon. Like, he's actually going to be that age in the game. He would have been that age.
So what you're saying is Michael Jackson has lived on through Space Channel 5?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a funny topic, really, that we don't need to go into too much detail, I would say. But just at the time, Michael Jackson was hugely celebrated, basically, across the world. And his music is... fantastic. Whether you like it or not, actually, it's fantastic. Like, basically, objectively, it's brilliant music. And so, yes, I can see why it's a good and interesting pick. I like that you've picked an aspect of the game, but I do like that he lives on through that, even though it can be a bit cringe. And every time I think of Michael Jackson, I think of. Actually, it's Bo Selector is one of the things I think of more than anything else, that kind of stuff. But anyway.
Isn't Michael Jackson...
You're going to say what I'm going to say.
No, you go ahead, Mike. Please. No, please. The floor is yours, Mike. You go ahead.
I think, me and Tom don't have a psychic link, as far as I know, but I think Tom was about to say that Michael Jackson was also in another Dreamcast game as well.
Indeed.
Which, of course, was made to Rumble Boxing Round 2.
Yes.
Of course he was. Yes. True. They're not a Sega game, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very true. Interesting.
Yeah, and also, when I asked this question earlier on about scary stories or something that scared you in your childhood, James, who is the custodian of our YouTube channel, check our YouTube channel if you haven't, he said that something that scared him as a kid was that Michael Jackson's Thriller video, when it was first shown on MTV, he actually hid behind the sofa because of the zombies and stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, that's adorable.
I've been scaring kids since 1980 something. Fair play.
Right, let's move away from Michael Jackson, not figuratively. I mean, not physically. I'm going to come to you next, Mike. What's your choice?
Should we just say allegedly after that entire last segment?
Yes, allegedly. Everyth's alleged. Yeah. Everything's alleged. Yes.
I'm just thinking of the South Park episode now, where he just says allegedly after everything. Allegedly.
I don't bring South Park up. That's another bad story so far. It's like, wow. So I've got a game in mind. I haven't got much to say about it because it makes me angry. But I do want to start off with a very the talk we had earlier on has sort of made me remember something which about video games, which has made me scared. It's about the same sort of time as Dreamcast. I remember playing a game called Star Trek Harbinger, which is or Harbinger, which is a terrible game. It's a point-and-click adventure, not very good. But the game has segments where the doors start opening. So it's a completely static screen, but doors will start opening. Since that time, I've never had speakers on my PC because it scared me so much when I was like 16 that I've never had speakers.
Just a random thought. The sound of the doors opening kind of thing.
Random, yeah. It was just the fact that you're playing a game which is completely static and all of a sudden doors start opening for no reason. You work out in the end that it's the characters, spoiler alert, there's the characters who are invisible. But it's just like, I always remember that and the fact that I played Quake once when I was like 17 and my speakers picked up the signal from a passing police car. But all I heard...
Bloody hell, I'm worried about these speakers more than
I think I might have had haunted speakers, to be fair. There's a possibility they were haunted speakers. I haven't had speakers since then on a PC, so I have no idea. Just headphones. Anyway, that was a sidetrack story, which, whatever. So my game, which is far more horrific than anything else we've mentioned today, is a game which doesn't usually get put into the realms of horror games. However, I'm here to convince everybody that it should be. And that game is Pen or Pen Triathlon. It's quite a good game, actually. It's a nice little multi-sport event game, my sort of thing. It's got bright, colourful graphics. Some of the bits are quite good. You slide down tracks on your belly. It's quite good fun. The characters are horrific. They are haunting. They are designed by someone with no ability to discern between reality and some weird,
I need to go back and look at them
haunted sort of. I don't even know what to describe it. There's an elephant type thing with bulging eyes and like.
It kind of reminds me. Good pick. I think it reminds me of the idea that someone went to the zoo on LSD.
Exactly. 100%. There is one screen on the internet which I'm sure everyone who searches Pen will find, and it's one screen of the character select screen.
Yeah.
And it is, you've never seen such a horrifying display of colour, a child's imagination, and almost certainly, as Martin said, drugs.
It looks like something from the island of Dr. Moreau.
I mean, no matter how we describe it, it doesn't really bring the full horror of what will behold you if you play this game. The game itself's quite good fun. You know what I mean? It's not particularly great. It's an early Dreamcast game, but I mean, it's just, I don't know who thought these characters up. It's almost like someone has gone a bit like South Park Rally, with the fact that they've just decided to go everything about South Park, throw it at a sheet, and think and try and make a game design from that. This is what it is when you have people saying, "Let's make a cute game. Mario's big. Little cartoon characters are cool. Let's make a nice game like that." And then they've had someone who cannot draw make these characters, and they've just drawn them just haunting. There's just, I can't describe how haunted I am by the eyes.
What about the hippo thing?
Hippo. Oh, it's a hippo.
Yeah,
Is it not elephant?
scary.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's just.
I've sent you an image in the chat because I had to Google this, and I found they've tried to make one of them sexy.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah. They've just to describe to people who haven't seen this picture, it's basically some kind of like amorphous blob which has got sort of hair which seems to be part in the head, and then sort of parts where the nipples are. I don't really know how to describe it any more than just literal
Japanese.
But it's not even. I can deal with Japanese. I can deal with the Japanese. That's quite cool. You know, we can see that. You know, we've all played Yakuza. We've all played a little crawl games in Yakuza, and we've all had good fun picking up these random things. This is just. I mean, what's that orange creature? Is he a walrus? I don't.
He looks like the main character from Bugsnax to me.
See now,
Classic game coming up.
Yeah. I mean, Bugsnax. I mean, the game we're all looking forward to more than anything else next generation. I know James, who's not on the podcast today, is a massive fan of Bugsnax.
I know Lewis is a big fan of the soundtrack as well.
And Lewis, yeah. So big fans. But yeah, I think this is it's worse than Bugsnax, which and also the fact I've just had a message come through from Andrew giving me a link to the Google search, and there's the second link on when you do a Google search for Pen Triathlon. The second link is like, I'm guessing some kind of like pre-release artwork. He's got red eyes. He just looks like he's got a bubble on his head. I don't.
That these characters are kind of like the ones that didn't make it into Sonic Adventure, you know, like that they designed a load of characters and they were like, God, yeah, I don't think we can let these out, and they just put them all in a box or in, you know, they just left them on one computer, and then they were like, oh, we can make a game out of these guys.
It is horribly haunting, and I don't know what was happening.
Yeah, I'm loving the artwork that Andrew just sent through as well, where they've kind of turned them all into like anime characters with their own personalities, and it's just like, no, you could pick something else to make an anime out of. It's not
a bad game though. I want to defend the game slightly. The game isn't actually that bad, but it's just, I mean, there's wackiness, and then there's just drug crazed someone recovering from a really bad trip. This is just...
I can see what you're saying. I mean, I can remember playing the game not long after I got my Dreamcast back in like 1999 or whenever it was, and I just remember it looking like a playable cartoon because it looked that good. But I see what you're saying about how just oddball the characters look. They are sort of something that escaped from a lab by the looks of things. Okay, Mike. Sorry to put you through that. I know it's obviously scarred you mentally, and the amount of time and effort you've put into describing that, it's something that's probably going to give you nightmares. Looks like the guy's head looking down the staircase earlier on. Yep. But,
or imagine Pen pouring rain.
Oh God!
Just Pen. I just looked, put his head round the corner. Oh my word!
and imagine describing it to someone and then not getting committed. Last but not least, Martin, we don't actually know what you've chosen, so this is going to be a bit of a surprise for us now on this one, because I'm intrigued. Explain.
I've got a first up is something of an anecdote that I've been thinking of, just remembering my time on the Dreamcast and what used to scare me, and it was booting the Dreamcast with VMUs with empty batteries and playing a game like past midnight when you're living at home with your parents, because the sound of 6 VMUs chirping up plus the GD-ROM drive, I mean, it was that I was genuinely scared that I was going to get caught. I mean, not in kind of ghost scary, of course, but I did have my Dreamcast. I think it was under my desk, and I would put like a pillow over it when it was booting to kind of keep the sound down a bit. It's a noisy old machine. I mean, if I think about machines now, I routinely complain, the PS4 is actually quite loud, but the Dreamcast does sound like a small jet fighter when it's powering along. So
Absolutely.
That's a little anecdote. My game is Urban Chaos, and I picked that because, again, it's not really a scary game. It was just really a game that, for me and my brother, we were looking forward to playing this before we played it, and it was terrible. Basically, the controls it's got a lot of promise. It's kind of, Grand Theft Auto's been around. Grand Theft Auto 3's coming up, I believe, at this point. 3D games and this kind of thing are becoming clearer that that's the direction, gaming's headed. Games like Driver setting the scene and stuff like that on the PlayStation. And this, in the stills, it looks all right. The graphics are okay, actually. But the frame rate is one thing that's pretty scary and shocking. And the other thing, though, is just the sheer frustration of the controls of the game. It is comical, actually. And earlier today, I tried having a go and gave up after about 3 minutes. But there is on YouTube, there's quite a nice video from, he goes by PC Wizard, I believe.
Oh, yeah, PC Wizard.
Yeah. On his YouTube channel, he covers this game, and that was extremely entertaining. This like 10-minute video he had of playing through it, because it is just a joke. You can see what they were trying to do, but when he's driving around in the car, there's no weight at all to the car. It's like it's a cardboard shell, and so just right is just full lock. Doesn't matter what speed you're going. There's just no design on that kind of aspect. The fighting mechanics horrendous. So when you're locked in a fight, that's it. You can only move then whilst looking at the person. Really basic kind of gameplay mistakes and things like that. And as I said, I was quite looking forward to playing this game. And I think it's aged horrendously badly to the point where I've got it right in front of me here as part of my Dreamcast collection. And it's basically mint in box, because in fact it's one of my best PAL cases because it hasn't been opened. I've been opened 3 times, I think. So.
Small Murphys.
Annoying as well. It was really annoying. I agree with everything Martin said, but what's really annoying is I had this game on a PC back in the day. I still got the big box version, and it plays really well on PC. It plays really well. I mean, I was really disappointed when I played it on Dreamcast because it just runs appallingly. But like things like, I don't know if you got into the car a bit early on, but when you're driving the car on Dreamcast, it's like the animation that's like skips frames for no reason.
Terrible.
Don't you have to like press up to go forwards as well in the car? I remember that being something horrendous you have to do. It's an interesting one, actually, Urban Chaos, just because of it's one of the very few games that I can think of on the Dreamcast, at least, that seems to have been almost directly ported from the PC, and it to the point where it even has graphical detail options, so you can turn on things like the draw distance. You can change the draw distance. You can change the lighting. If there's like actual lens flares and stuff on the street lights and things like that. So I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah, I do agree with everything you've said. It's almost, for me, it's unplayable. It's really disappointing. Really disappointing, because it shows that almost semi-open world, free-roaming adventure games were a thing that the Dreamcast could do, and if it had been done better, I don't know. It's just a missed opportunity.
Well, as Mike said, I think there was a lot of hype and promise for it at the time in previews and things. And this is back in the day of no video preview. This was all in the magazine stills and people saying how good the PC game is, and we've got Windows CE on on the Dreamcast, and it's all going to be great and everything. And then things like on the back of the case, command a variety of vehicles. You can take control of police cars, vans, and ambulances. Yeah. And the funny thing is, actually, PC Wizard wasn't able to get into a police car and had to run around the whole city at the beginning 5 minutes on foot chasing muggers down. And another one here, 3D volumetric fog, rain, snow, night and day simulation, wall hugging shadows, and real-time simulation of crashes enhance the atmosphere and action of the game. And in fairness, it's got all the right recipes, right, for an actual. It's all there. It's all the ingredients are there, rather, not recipe. All the recipes there, all the ingredients are there. It's just it didn't get executed properly. They put everything in the wrong order, and it's just
oven wasn't turned on.
That's it. Yeah, trying to
It's a
bake
horrible
a cheesecake
shame.
at 50 degrees C for 6 hours or something. I don't know.
It's a horrible shame because I didn't get this on the Dreamcast, but I did play it on PlayStation, and I really wanted to like it. I really, really wanted to like it, but like you say, it's the PC version was received really well. It got ported to consoles, and it just wasn't capable. The consoles weren't capable of it. Not only that, but it came from is it EDOS or IDOS? I never know how to pronounce that company. So it was it was the whole Tomb Raider thing at the time as well, because they were the publisher of Tomb Raider, and it was another game with a female protagonist, of which there haven't been very many. Not only that, it was probably one of the first games with a black female protagonist, which was a huge thing. Brilliant. And I played it and I enjoyed it for a little bit. My main memory is of jumping over chain link fences quite a lot, but I just put it down because in the end it was so tough to get on with, and it's such a shame. And I'd really like to play the PC version now, just so I can actually give it a try properly.
I think the developer, because Mucky Foot is the developer, and I think I might be wrong. I think Mucky Foot is a spin-off of Bullfrog. And I know that in the late 1990s, there was a lot of every single game released by anyone to do with that company seemed to get really high scores. So maybe the scores were slightly inflated on PC. I remember PC games being quite keen. But I've played it. I played it on PC, and it does run quite well. But as Tom said earlier on about the fact that you've got loads of options to change graphical effects and stuff, it makes no difference. I mean, it literally has no difference to the play. I don't know whether it's just a case where it's just a really, really sloppy, cheap port.
Yeah, I mean, there is precedent for PC ports coming to the Dreamcast, which were actually good in this kind of genre. Things like Nomad Soul or Omicron, as it's known in the States. I thought that was a fairly sort of accomplished port for the Dreamcast, but sadly, this game is not.
There's another game that I played on PC first before getting it on Dreamcast, and it's not rated very highly at all, but I really love playing this again with my brother quite a lot, and just also in single player, and that was Incoming.
Oh yeah.
I really like that. I remember playing that a lot on PC on my pretty poor school homework PC, but it could run a few games, and I really like the Dreamcast version. And again, that's one of those games that really I don't think there's much difference. So as you say, Tom, like PC ports can be done, and this really comes down to they could have chopped up some graphics a bit, because the frame rate is key to playing a game, especially where you've got response required. It makes sense to me. And going hand in hand with that is the actual gameplay mechanic. Like, if you can't move your character around, it's not going to be fun. The best playing games are those where you have the illusion or the feeling of the most control over whatever it is you're doing, whether it be driving the rally car, whether it be moving a player protagonist around, whether it be flying, this kind of thing. That control aspect takes you away from reality, whereas when you play Urban Chaos, you're sitting there just shouting at the TV about how crap the controls are.
Well, and I like how you've gone from being in Norfolk and having no electricity and using candles to having a computer for your homework.
Yeah.
Like, was that just your computer, or was that like the house? Because I didn't have a computer just myself.
That was Norfolk's computer.
Oh, I see.
And you had to just book time out on it. So
Makes sense.
I had a good couple of days on there.
That checks out. Yeah.
That's been really cool hearing all of your choices for your horrific Dreamcast games or specifics. I think, gents, we're now approaching the magic witching hour, so I think it's about time we got out of here. So just leaves me to say thank you for sharing your really spooky stories. Mark, your story of that head is never going to leave my memory.
I look forward to the
I just
artwork.
got over that. And now I've got a of course inside, and it's dark recording this in the evening, and there's like reflections and things, and no.
Yeah, I look forward to the artwork displaying this podcast, because if it's not got a man looking round the top of the staircase, I'll be disappointed.
I'll see what I can do. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining me on this cold and stormy night, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in and listening to us ramble about our horrific Dreamcast moments. Just remains for me to say, guys, where can people find you if they want to sort of chat or follow you on social media, that kind of thing? Mark, where can you be found?
So, I'm on Twitter at MazGamingUK. That's MAZ Gaming UK, and the same on YouTube, just Maz Gaming UK.
Fantastic. Andrew, what about yourself?
You can find me at Oddment84, and perhaps on eBay, where I'll be picking up a copy of The Ring, Terror's Realm, so I can scare myself. Bore myself.
Excellent. Mike, where can people find you?
Yeah, I can find Twitter at space_turnip, and also at Dreamcast Pics, that's PICS, where I share lots of random pictures that no one gives a shit about, and nor do I.
Excellent. And Martin, where can people find you if they so wish?
Can find me at Sega Collection on Twitter, though I hardly go on, so yeah, be careful.
Fabulous. Well, you can find us all as a collective, as ever, at the DC Junkyard, and you can find our ramblings at dreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. And thank you very much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you again in the very near future. Goodbye.
Bye.
Crazy money, are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Bye.